Boo!
Well, do you want to do the honors? Me start queuing up some music. You're going to kick things off tonight?
Yeah, sounds good to me. This was the story that I first found, and when I was searching for these stories, I thought this was a good one to start off with. I met a dead relative. It was Thanksgiving 2019. My family was holding Thanksgiving dinner at my grandmother's sister's house. She just moved to Oklahoma, so my grandma wanted us to spend Thanksgiving with her. When we got there were a few others, but we still had to wait for the rest to show up. So in the meantime, we just did whatever. My grandma's sister breeds Pomeranians for a living, so her house is basically a Pomeranian farm. Me and my brother wanted to check the puppies out, and we needed to pass time, so that's what we did. She has 2 large pens outside and a pen in her garage to keep the newborn puppies and their mothers in until they're ready to be sent outside. It was pretty wet outside, so I decided to go out, and then we went into the garage to stay out of the mud. When we came in, there was an older man sitting in a recliner watching the puppies. I know it's kind of bizarre to just have a recliner standing around in your garage, but that's where my grandma's sister would sit when she was taking care of the puppies. There's always a lot of them, so she likes to be comfortable while doing it. We said hi and introduced ourselves. He introduced himself as Dean and said he was my grandmother's sister's husband. We kept chatting for about 30 minutes and then left. We went back into the kitchen to see the progress and to see that they were setting the table. They called for everyone to come to the table. I went back to the garage to get Dean, but he wasn't there. I went back to the kitchen and told my grandmother that I went to get Dean, but he wasn't in the garage like I last saw him. She responded with, "Huh?" I repeated myself and she said, "Thanksgiving isn't a day to make those kind of jokes." I was confused. I told her I wasn't making any jokes. He said he was in there earlier. She looked me in the eyes and says, "Dean has been dead for 5 months. He wasn't brought up at dinner for obvious reasons, but I told my brother later that night when we got home about what Grandma said. I've been back to her house numerous times since then, and every time I go into that garage, all I can think about is that 30-minute conversation we had." My brother refuses to go back into the garage.
What? What's the disconnect here? How did he not know this?
Well, this person didn't live near them,
Distant. Yeah.
and then they finally moved near them recently.
I guess we've all had some distant relatives. Still pretty crazy to not know that, though.
I assume this is also probably a younger person, because they're, just wanting to go out and play with the puppies while everyone else is working.
What's up with garage stories? I don't know.
I actually had another garage story that didn't make the cut for tonight. That was also creepy, but
Aaron Stevens, Damian Sandell says that the Pomeranian farm might be the scariest part. I had a Pomeranian once. Terrible dog.
My brother had one too.
I know there's supposed to be good dogs. This dog in particular, oh man, terrible dog. Anyway,
I'm not a fan of the smaller breed dogs, just in general. But yeah,
only if you can feed him Nutter Butters. That's the only time you're a fan. Anyways, go ahead.
Did that myself, but this is one of those stories that I can see myself slightly in. There are people who I'm related to that I don't know the whole story with their family all the time, like even cousins and some aunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I could see myself as a kid not knowing when someone's husband had passed.
Yeah.
Right.
It's important to know that they're a kid for sure. I'll give you that. They're a kid. They wouldn't know. That's still creepy though. How old was this person when they passed?
I don't know, but it was this person's grandmother's sister's husband, so probably in their 60s, 70s.
Can you imagine going to the garage? You don't even know. It's just some ghost. And you find out like 20 minutes later.
They had like a 30-minute long conversation about
That's
the
the
dog.
craziest part. They talked for that long.
Yeah.
And he never got the feeling that this was a spirit or a ghost.
Yeah, that's pretty weird, right? And it's actually kind of odd for a ghost story. Normally, an encounter isn't something that lasts that long. So that makes it
not.
all the more interesting to me.
Usually it's like one thing said, or there's just like they see something. To have a full-out conversation is phenomenal.
Another thing that made me like this particular story and why I picked it, I can also relate to the style of this holiday. Like, they have people working in the kitchen, and then like the kids are going off and doing stuff. That's something very much that our family would do. So like you wouldn't know what the kids are up to for like.
Oh, for sure. We kind of did our own thing back in the day.
Yeah, I could see this. I could really see all this being legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was spooky, kind of creepy, but also like sad because like clearly he wanted to be part of the holidays still.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a time to, show yourself. Sounds like a long-standing tradition that they had, I assume.
Yep.
So,
Especially if this Pomeranian thing was something that they did while he was still alive and wanted to be around it still.
yeah, I mean, it's a special time of it's personally one of my favorites holidays. It might be up there just because I like to eat, obviously. Look at me. It's just always a good time and you're around people, loved ones. So this guy, what was his name? Dean just wanted to be around his family, I guess,
Yeah.
And I can see what you're saying, like, because you sometimes, like, obviously went to your house on Thanksgiving, but went there all the time. But sometimes there's, like, a certain family member's house that you go to, like, once or twice a year for these occasions, basically. And I could see where you, like, imagine that. Like, imagine, like, the whole year wait until you had to go there next year. Like, what would you be thinking?
Yeah, that would be really nuts. Thinking like, oh man, is he going to be there? I mean, am I going to see him again?
This game says he's going to haunt everyone's Thanksgiving. What holiday would you pick to come back on?
Well, shoot, man, that's hard to say. I really love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving, and I love the 4th of July. So, like, those three are really hard to pick between.
I think I would have to come back on Christmas, but Thanksgiving would be up there. Because, I mean, you can't, like, you're not going to eat when you're a ghost, right? Now, that would be crazy. If you ate a meal with the guy, now that would be a story I'd like to hear.
That would be nuts, yeah.
Dean and I, carved the turkey together, and we, ate turkey together and ate pumpkin pie or, whatever else. That would be insane. Stuffing.
You never know. It might happen sometime.
Might. Perfect story, as usual, to kick the night off. It's believable.
It was a bite-sized story, too.
It's a bite-sized story.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?